Hello everyone, welcome to Quinntopia. This is a new style of video for me. This will be a video tour of my layout, which will be different because I usually just show you my trains and not the context of where it is. So hopefully you'll enjoy this, and I look forward to sharing it with you. So right now what you're looking at is the actual layout. This section being the very first original section of my model train hobby, and from there I expanded it out, and I'll talk you through a couple of those sections. One thing I will point out, you see that door there, that is a garage door, and you're in my garage, and this is the third stall in a garage in a newer house, and it's walled off to separate it from the cars and all of that, so it's a little bit nicer than just having it in a normal garage. I'm going to turn around here and give you a view of my workbench area. This is an area I don't show for obvious reasons on my videos. And as you can tell, it has all the various tools and different bits and pieces of things that one ends up accumulating in somewhat vast quantities when you're building a model train layout. So this is it. This is the workbench. I built this myself so I can have plenty of room to spread out, but it always seems to get filled with stuff. As you can tell, I've got some buildings and just kind of moving them around, and another building project in the works right now. And over here is a tool chest, but rather than putting tools in it, I'm actually using it to store my model trains. I actually find it's a pretty nice place to keep them rather than having them just placed in random boxes and so forth. And the smallest shelf is actually great for rolling stock and wagons and so forth, so it's really worked out well. On the wall here I've got very temporarily tacked up pieces for scenery and for landscaping, and I like to keep them handy while I'm in projects so I can find exactly what I'm looking for. That will come down though once this layout is all finished and I'm ready to roll. But finishing a layout is an interesting idea because, as I mentioned earlier, I've been working on this and expanding it for about 3 years now, and it just started with this, and this little section here, which is actually a hollow core door, fairly typical way to start off with a layout, and it worked really well, but I decided to expand it, and this is what I would call version 1. Version 2 started right here. You can almost tell there's a line of division there, and that ended up being this longer yard and this loop with the mill, and then ultimately with what I call version 3, the viaduct. And it was really just two hollow core doors laid end on end next to each other, which was essentially my layout up until last year, when I decided to extend it a little bit more and give a little bit more variety to the layout, give a little bit more storage space too for trains, with what I call version 4, which starts here and has these tracks branching off going over to this section, and what will ultimately be more of a more urban environment. It is all wired on a separate circuit, so when I'm ready to turn on the trains and run trains, I just come over here, flip the switch, and power goes to the layout. Really fantastic. Makes it so much easier to have it all set up like that. And so as you can see, there's now lights on in the city, track lights on, control panels lit up. I got blue indicators on my circuits, which means no shorts, so we're ready to run trains. And when I want to run trains, I'm using the Roku multi-mouse system. This is it. It's wireless. Although I do have a wireless version, or a wired version I use, which is sitting right over there. It's a really nice system, so I'll just turn it on. It'll do a little bit of a startup mode here. Hopefully that's in focus somewhat. And it tells me right now that the current locomotive selected is the CC 72000, and I can go ahead and give that a little power, and we'll hear it over there in the distance. I think it's over at the station. Yes, there it is. It's going backwards. And it doesn't have its lights on, so I'll just stop that by hitting that, pushing the light button, and bringing it forward. And there it comes. Alright, so I want to switch to another train. I have the BLS Class 420, and to switch locomotives I will click down here in the directory until I get to BLS 420. There we go, I just passed it. Turn the lights on and give it some gas. Here we go, or give it some electricity, as we would more prototypically and even in a model sense say correctly. So there we are. So this is the multi-mouse. It's fantastic because I can hold it in one hand. It's really designed well for one-hand operation, and I really like that feature because I'm obviously videotaping with one hand and controlling trains with the other. But what I can do, and we'll just follow the 420 around the layout, it's going to go through this cut, which was this cut was an interesting add-on. It wasn't originally part of my layout plan, but these tracks right here, set that down for a second, these tracks were the original edge of the layout, and you can tell there's maybe half an inch there before you had to drop to the floor. And that was just a little bit too nerve-wracking for me, so I extended onto the original hollow corridor, this section here, and then obviously added in these skyscrapers as a little bit of almost a scenic backdrop. And now I have security and safety with the layout. And we'll call the BLS 420. It's on the lower track. It's going to go into a tunnel there and go underneath this section. This section is actually a lift-out section. There's the BLS 420. So I can get in there and clean the tracks. It's a piece of Sintra, and I have some trees nicely mounted in there as handles. Again, that's the first version of the layout. Here you see the version 2 expansion. We come down here to what I call version 3 with the viaduct, and then version 4 over here where we have more scenery, much more different look for me on this layout than I had earlier, and gave me a little bit of fun to do with scenery and landscaping. Over there in the distance, where we actually were just standing a minute ago, is the new passenger terminal. Gives me a lot more room to store and hold things, which I didn't have before. So this is it. This is the layout. Quick tour, give you an idea of how it all works and where everything sits. And hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.